Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week. It's Friday night, it's talkTV, and this is, of course, the home of common sense. It's the one place where you don't have to do anything tonight. You just sit back and enjoy all the judgmental behaviour that you'll be witnessing from number 1, Mr. Jeremy Kyle. From number 2, Ms. Chloe Dodds.
Dobby.
Number 3, Mr. Will Geddes. And number 4, Mr. Mark Wogan. Anyway, who have you got for us for kick-off?
So last week, naturally, the grooming, the rape gangs and Starmer. And this week, because I always think with immigration, illegal migration, you couldn't talk about this 5 or 10 years ago in this country without being a racist. I have to salute the Sun newspaper. They have done the most extraordinary expose. An undercover reporter posing as an Afghanistani illegal migrant was able to prove that literally illegal migrants are secretly working at fast food delivery companies on bikes, right?
There's not much secret about it, to be fair.
Within hours of arriving in the United Kingdom, and just to make the British people who are struggling, because we give all our money away to the Chagos Islands and everybody else, they're getting £1,000 a week in tax-free, right?
Yeah.
And all you have to do is you have to go to a migrant hotel where there are 50 or 60 of these bloody bikes sat there. So nobody from the Home Office and nobody from Border Control and nobody from the Immigration Service is doing anything. We know who the big five are. Deliveroo, Just Eats, all of them, right? And literally across the country, the Sun found like reams of bikes, right?
Yeah.
I had Harry Colan when this story broke, and he said something I think is absolutely right. Yet again, a government goes, "Oh, well, we're going to talk to the companies and tell them," because there can't be a company that employs people. I'd have dragged those CEOs up to Downing Street that morning and gone, "I'm finding you're closing your bloody business down." Do you know what would have been the great optic, right? 6 o'clock in the morning, Home Office, battering rams and the police into those migrant hotels and drag them out and send them home. It's a joke, man.
You know, it's
you're
the time,
watching this and you're working and you're earning cash, and they're getting £1,000 a week.
And they're also living rent-free. So, I mean, we've had people ringing in saying, I've got to work for a living, I pay my taxes, everything's going up, my rent's more expensive than it used to be, my mortgage has gone up. They can't afford it. They should have took the old steamroller trick out, brought the steamroller down to the hotel and run over all the bikes, some of which are worth about £1,000, by the way.
Where do they get the bikes from the companies?
They're either from the companies or they're nicking them or they're jacking those ones that you can rent.
It comes back to, doesn't it, every single week, increasing in this country, right, Mikey, that why would you play the game and pay your tax and not break the law? Why would you be a good parent or just because these people are getting everything and doing zilch.
It's shocking. We've got a little bit of, just before, Will, I come to you, we've got a little bit of the Sun exclusive video. This is Thomas Godfrey, who's the reporter in question.
Good man.
Asylum seekers are being offered Deliveroo and Just Eat accounts within 10 minutes of asking for them, as thousands work illegally for the apps across the country. We went undercover to expose how easy it is for illegal immigrants who have just arrived in the UK to join the massive black market economy. He told me, quote, "You can earn up to £100 daily," though other dealers said migrants had made as much as £250, and some we spoke to said they were making nearly £1,000 a week. The speed at which migrants are processed on quiet days means they can now start earning on delivery apps within hours of arriving in Dover.
Can I just say something? Did you let the last sentence? The speed with which they're processed. We can process them to get a job as a fast food, but we can't bloody well process whether they should be in this country for months.
The mad thing about it is, I mean, many years ago, one of the things that we used to do in my company was go and check on agencies that would provide, for example, cleaning staff in major corporates. And one of the things that we used to check on was permits to work. Because the major company, not the agency that supplied the staff, but the major company that employed those agency staff, could be fined significantly for employing foreign nationals. So I think the only solution is, the migrants are going to find whatever opportunity they can. You can't blame them for doing that. If they can find a hole in the system, they're going to find it.
I mean, it is obvious to anyone, as that guy has clearly shown, is you turn up to any Home Office run hotel and they've got the bikes all parked outside.
I don't think we knew quite how far-reaching it was, that it's all over the country and it's organised.
It would be okay if we had some sort of system where whilst you're waiting for your asylum application to be approved, that you've got some limited number of jobs that you are allowed to legally work. If that money is being put towards you paying for your own roof over your head and your own food. This is pure disposable income for them because they've got the roof over their head, they've got their food all paid for, and trips to the cinema, trips to the bouncy
I don't
castle,
disagree.
DJ lessons, driving
I
lessons.
only disagree with you on one thing. I don't think they should be able to set foot in this bloody country
shouldn't.
unless they are proven to have a case. I think they should be kept
The other
offshore
question-
and
have a permit to
deported.
The other question I had, which I haven't really had properly answered yet, is what do they do with the money? Because, you know, they haven't got bank accounts, these people. They've literally been in the country a few hours. They haven't got a bank account. So somebody's handling all of this money.
Yeah.
So it sounds more like it's an organised crime
really good idea.
scenario
Potential
because
money
they won't be
laundering as
making the
well.
money for themselves. I bet somebody's taking loads of it away from them, you know?
Yeah, Michael, I mean, the key question is, if I was investigating it, would be to look at these Ubers and these Just Eats and go, right, your payroll system, let's have a look at that. Where is this money actually going?
Yeah,
is it going onshore? Is it going offshore? Is it being paid in cash?
Right.
Because again, if there's any quantity of cash that's being paid, and bear in mind,
there a middleman
lot of these
being
guys,
paid in there?
there could
Yeah.
be some kind of money laundering.
I
Well,
do have a
exactly right.
solution, though. Ban electric bikes.
Yeah, good idea.
You ain't got an electric bike, you ain't delivering anything.
Mind you, there are some
love
who
a line
there
bike,
are some who
though.
don't.
There
Love
you
a
see,
line bike.
are you
I don't
part of the
park it like
problem?
an idiot.
Are you?
Yeah, but
Don't
I
throw
hate
it in
line
the
bikes.
river.
They always
careful,
park
if you
them
start
everywhere.
driving around on those, you won't be on Plank of the Week for long. So, have a look at this. This is how Iceland delivery works, if you get anything from them.
This is the moment an Iceland delivery driver was caught urinating on a customer's bins before speeding off with the customer on his bonnet. The customer initially caught the driver urinating over his wheelie bins after dropping off his food shop, with the driver becoming aggressive after being confronted and reportedly attempted to throw punches. The customer stood in front of the van to stop him driving off whilst on the phone to the police, before the driver sped off with the customer on the van's bonnet.
That was
would
in Croydon,
never
apparently.
have happened in Kerry Katona's day.
No, it certainly wouldn't. Absolutely not. They've gone downhill since then, haven't they? Absolutely right. Chloe, over to you. BBC News.
Yes, the BBC, they put in their auto cue pregnant people rather than, or pregnant persons rather than pregnant women. And
Yes.
good old Martine Croxall, she actually stood up for herself and corrected it.
Yeah.
Afterwards said, no, women.
Yes.
And J.K. Rowling has now said, I found my new favourite BBC presenter. I mean, the BBC, they do claim that, this was from a report. We didn't specifically write this ourselves,
Yes.
but...
Yes,
We
because some
know
of the
what they're
people-
up to.
Yeah, some of the people on the sort of the gender-neutral side of the argument are saying that, you know, she shouldn't have changed the quote. It's bad journalism. Let's have a look at the clip anyway.
London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine has released research which says that nearly 600 heat-related deaths are expected in the UK. Malcolm Mystery, who is involved in the research, says that the aged, pregnant people, women, and those with pre-existing health conditions need to take precautions.
Yeah, well done, Martine Croxall.
Is she the one?
She is exactly.
She the one who was being pushed out because of her age.
Yeah, she's
So
also
fair play to you. She doesn't give a toss.
No,
Does she?
she doesn't
Good for
now
her.
because she's got him over a barrel.
Yeah.
She was also the one who was suspended, if you remember, for the night that Boris Johnson was made to resign, and she came on air and said, "Can I be forgiven for being a little celebratory tonight?" I think words to that effect.
Fair play to her there, though.
She also got in trouble, I believe, for saying that trans women were men on Radio 4.
Right.
So the wokery is well alive and kicking. Apparently,
It's
the
good.
BBC have now just put out some new guidance to
Right.
their staff that they must allow some minority and savoury opinions, i.e., anything sceptical about immigration.
But minority
on their
opinions,
shows.
like
You mean popular
only
opinions.
women
Exactly.
can be pregnant.
Yeah, only
it's a
women get
minority
pregnant,
opinion.
and this
Exactly.
country is being flooded by migrants.
They-
Opinions that the whole country
They
shares.
said minority and unpalatable views. They must be willing to find the
Unpalatable.
courage to put them on air.
I mean, only the
Can we not
BBC could
just-
call that unpalatable. My God, what do you mean, pregnant women?
Can we not just deal in facts?
Well,
No, you ridiculous man.
Sorry.
you.
I mean,
This is
quiet,
this is-
Mary.
sorry.
But this tells you a lot about how far journalism is falling. You know, they have
Yeah.
to set up BBC Verify inside of BBC, which is a fact-checking organisation. That's supposed to be what journalists do.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need a special section to go, oh, why don't you check the facts over here? It's ridiculous. Mad. Will, over to you. The Prime Minister. Again.
Gimp Starmer,
Yeah.
again, scores another goal. And this was a particularly good one. I think
It
you
was.
covered it quite a bit on your show this
Yes.
week, didn't you, Mike? And this was where Gimp Starmer was being interviewed by Beth Rigby on Sky about what were President Donald Trump's intentions
Yes.
with Iran. Was it likely that he was going to bomb Iran?
Right.
And literally a few hours later, yes, Trump did, after Gimp Starmer basically went, no, he's not going to do it.
I'm one of the few
which
people
basically
who-
shows he's in that vacuum
Yeah.
of basically being untrusted, not being within the inner circle,
Yeah.
not being as close an ally as he would like to think he is, that Trump is going to confide in him and tell him what he's going to be doing.
I was watching them actually this week at the NATO summit, because Trump arrived, and of course they all start bowing and scraping to him. And there's one scene where they're all sort of walking from one room into another, and the guy at the back is Starmer. And nobody's talking to him. He's just walking on his own, sort of heads down. You know, Trump's just, marching everybody through to the next room.
Did you see yesterday? It's brilliant. It's like you and me. So Trump's standing in front of the press, and little Starmer's next to him, and he drops some papers.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Starmer's immediately.
I know.
And Trump's looking down. Little man picking up the.
Yeah.
Second-hand
I know.
embarrassment.
It was so bad. Well, here's the actual piece that Starmer says.
Do you know what's going on?
Well, I don't think you should read into that an American attack is imminent.
He's calling the Security Council together.
We had a 2-hour discussion with the President last night.
So you don't think an attack is in his mind, or US joining Israel? You don't think that's in his
wording
mind?
of the G7 statement, I think, speaks for itself.
Oh, there's a stealth bomber.
Should have had it like Comical Alley over in Iraq.
Let's have the stealth bomber going over his head.
Did you notice, by the way, his hair was styled to make it look like the mountain behind him?
I know, it was good, yeah.
It was uncanny.
I have issue with his hair.
Snowy tops.
People would say I shouldn't have issue with anyone's hair, but I do have issue.
Yeah, there's something wrong with his hair.
The thing I find so amusing is literally he should be on the inside. And you've seen David Lammy fuffing it as well in terms of the response.
Yeah.
And it's inevitable.
We'll come on to that later.
I can't remember. But the key issue here is that inevitably Keir Starmer hasn't come out with any sort of comments or any congratulations to the US for what they've done. No. He's kept his powder incredibly dry. And I'll tell you why. This is my speculation. I've seen it happen before. The security services have basically said, shut up, Starmer, don't say a word, because we don't want retaliations over here.
Right.
So if there are sleeper cells that are in operation, which we know there are 6,000 odd Iranians or Iranian-affiliated
but I mean, there's no point in pretending that you're on their side.
Yeah, but he's pretending. He just wants to be Mr. Vanilla, and that's the problem.
Well,
with
you
Starmer.
can't be
he
Mr.
always
Vanilla.
will be.
But that's the problem.
If you cannot stand up, you haven't got the balls to stand up and defend
it's
our number one ally, and frankly,
Yeah.
if people won't like that's the only reason we're actually here is because of America. That tells you everything.
Yeah.
He spends too much time, like the grooming gangs, worrying about the Muslim vote or the left-wingers or momentum or the LGBT, whatever it is. He spends so much time worrying about it that he does nothing and he says
And 2 weeks in a row, he's missed the Prime Minister's questions.
Yeah.
He's the Prime Minister. There's problems back here that he needs to solve. And quite frankly, I'm more concerned, as are many more people, about internal terrorism in this country.
Oh, God,
There's 500 convicted terrorists walking the streets of this country, having served their time in prison, and they're now just walking around.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the reason why he's always gallivanting abroad and isn't in the country is because everything's going so wrong domestically that he thinks the one
thing...
with
his wife
where,
at home?
He thinks the one thing where he appears as a strong leader is on foreign policy. He thinks that's been his huge win for him over the past year. You know, he managed to butter up Trump with that letter for a sleepover with the king.
For you.
Right,
But
and now he cannot claim to be winning on foreign policy. This made him look like a completely irrelevant loser.
To take your point, Mike, you know, in terms of the individuals that have incurred into the United Kingdom and have got in here, and let's look at the last 5 Iranians
those are only the ones
who
we
were
know
arrested,
about.
and those are the ones we know about. And the last 5 Iranians that were arrested came over on small boats across the Channel. We've got so many potentially here. Starmer is like the big bad wolf is outside the door, but if he's quiet enough, the wolf won't try and break in.
I know.
Sorry, I'm going to move on. Did you say he was married?
Mr. Starmer is indeed married, yes.
Oh,
yeah. I haven't seen his wife for a while, though. She likes to go on some of the
He's got a
trips.
wife.
Yeah. She wanted a red dress. Remember, she went to Washington with him the first time, and that was all great. And they were waving, holding hands.
Well, she definitely wasn't marrying him for his personality.
I don't think so. I mean, her judgment has to be seriously...
I haven't heard a lot about Lord Ali recently,
her judgment has to be seriously in question, doesn't it?
No, let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not go there. Mr. Mark Wogan, over to you.
Spencer Duarte.
Never heard of him.
Who is he?
Now, he may well have met you, Mike. Because
really?
Have you not had your phone stolen?
I have. Yeah.
So Spencer is...
I couldn't see the guy that stole mine. He was wearing a crash helmet.
Yeah. He's one of those. Rides around on an electric bike, stealing phones.
Okay.
Right? Now, a rather nice group of people saw this happen, and he was on... What was he riding?
An electric bike.
Yeah. Right.
Dobby's career move coming up.
He was riding an electric bike, and a group of people knocked him off, and he lost a shoe.
And fantastic.
And you may think,
let's watch the CCTV footage. He's in bright yellow,
There he is.
I'm told. Oh, there he is.
There he is, running away. Oof.
Oh, they got him.
Yeah.
Oh, they got him.
I mean, he wasn't exactly low-key as a criminal anyway.
No.
I'm going to go out and steal things in high-vis.
Maybe there's some kind of like Tour de France electric bike race that he's in. You know, he's got the yellow jersey because he's winning it.
I mean, his bib. He's definitely winning the phone stealing.
Yeah.
Competition.
It could be. Actually, maybe that is what they're all doing. They're all involved in some kind of weird TV show.
Yeah,
you know,
we don't know.
Steal a phone,
Just
see how far you can get.
Jolly's
it'll come out on Dave next year.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think he should be an athlete. He looks very agile and fast.
It's quite nippy.
But anyway, he lost this shoe.
Yeah.
Right. And the police got the shoe and managed to prosecute him based on the DNA of his stinky trainer.
That's extraordinary.
Now, you see, I thought you were going to say that because he'd been manhandled by people and he'd lost his shoe, it was impacted on the sole of his foot and he was getting a left-wing human rights law to say, I need damages because British, you know...
That will probably still follow, yeah.
That may be...
Good name, it's Spencer Duarte.
Spencer Duarte.
Where is Spencer Duarte from? Did he come here on a boat?
No, he's from Saffron Walden in Essex.
Oh, right. Well,
a war-torn area. A war-torn area.
Yeah, very well. It's also near the coast. He could have come in.
You do that. Peter Kay goes over there.
It's over
to
there.
Tenerife.
He's going to Tenerife.
It's true. Have you not seen my weather report? It does exactly that. We've reached the end of the first section already. How extraordinary. Coming up, we're going to talk about some more terrorists in this country. We're going to talk about the NHS as well. And another bloke. I can't tell you about him, but he's a camel herder, apparently. This is Plank of the Week.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome back to Plank of the Week. Before I do my first nomination, we completely forgot to do something in the last bit, and that was we talked about it, but we didn't do this.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Love him.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
I mean,
everybody that I know has been texting me, you know, even people that voted Democrat, they go, he's great, he's just brilliant.
Yeah.
You can't take the New Yorker
I love
out of New York.
She did it on the show.
You know.
What do you think of the
I just
British
kept playing
government?
it. I just kept playing. What do you think of Keir Starmer? He doesn't know what the he's doing. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, the big story this week is, of course, in addition to Iran being bombed by Donald Trump, and nobody here seems to know anything about it, is this new group called Palestine Action, or Palestine Action. These are the same people who broke into RAF Bryce Norton. I did say this week as well that we've ordered 12 new jets from America as part of our build-up of, defences. They're not going to put them in Bryce Norton because they can't guarantee somebody won't get in and nick them.
Doesn't say an awful lot that we can't defend our own air bases, does it?
I think as a rule, let's not say where we're putting them.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, well, it's not Bryce Norton. So if you're watching, that's one you can knock off the list. But they are going to put them. They've bought these planes, right, which are not going to be usable on aircraft carriers for some reason. So they're all going to be land-based, which is not very helpful if you're,
They've got barns somewhere in Gloucestershire.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What's that over there? Oh, that's the new F-35. Anyway, Palestine Action went in and managed to, throw paint over some planes, damage them to the extent of about 25 million quid, and then escape before anybody could see them. So finally, the government woke up to this and thought, well, I know what we should do is we should prescribe these people because they're not just Stop Oil anymore. Yeah. They're not just, a pain in the neck like Extinction Rebellion. Yeah. They're actually so extreme and dangerous that they're attacking military operations. We're going to prescribe them as a terrorist organisation, right? But the trouble is they can't seem to work out how to do it because as late as the weekend, which was about 4 days after the break-in, here's Jonathan Reynolds, the fake solicitor, who was ridiculously sent out to defend, the government on Sunday and to tell people whether or not we supported America. Have a look.
I mean, here are the pictures of the fence. It looks like a fence down the side of your local allotment. Protesters managed to get into an RAF base, and now you're banning that group. Isn't that a farcical level of security at such a dangerous time?
Well, it is extremely concerning. They gained access to that base, and the Defence Secretary is doing an immediate review of how that happened. The actions that they undertook at Bryce Norton were also completely unacceptable, and it's not the first. It's the fourth attack by that group on a key piece of UK defence infrastructure. So I can't comment again on that formal legal process. There may or may not be prescription. But you should expect a very robust response.
Well, There hasn't been a very robust response.
They keep rolling this particular donut out when they don't know what to say.
Right.
And he just jabbers
He does.
in front of a
He
camera.
doesn't have any clue.
The business secretary that knows he's the business secretary that knows nothing about business and claimed to be a solicitor when he wasn't even qualified.
But I think you're all wrong. I'm sorry, I put my foot down. You're all wrong. In the middle of my show, we were discussing the incompetence of the military and the government and the fact that these people should have been prescribed and arrested and, rounded up.
Right.
Zara Sultana, the Labour MP for Coventry South, who got thrown out of the Labour Party, has been literally tweeted, what do you call it? On Twitter,
on
X,
Twitter.
in the middle of my show, we are all Palestine Action,
there it is.
put.
Yeah.
And
of course,
we all?
we're obviously we're not all Palestinian, to which I then retweeted her saying, well, that's good, because then we can lock you up as well. Because
if she mentions it again.
Well, once they've been a prescribed organisation.
She's always raising things, isn't
she is.
Yeah.
She's always raising. She was also on the BBC.
Raising
very good.
agent.
I see what you did there. I thought she was one of those fake sort of parody politicians when I first saw her account on Twitter. I thought it can't be a real name. And she can't be really actually serious about these views. But this is what she had to say on Laura Kunsberg's show.
What happened at the RAF base was two aircraft vehicles being damaged, no single life harmed, no one injured.
But the minister's point is that there's a track record. It's not the first time they've done it, and he implied, although he wouldn't spell out, that there were very active questions about who is behind those protesters. I should say, we don't know, but listening to the minister, there's clearly something else behind it.
She's off her meds.
She's not really sure what a plane is she?
Do you want to get her...
How does she call it? An aircraft vehicle.
Do you want to get her to explain to the British taxpayer we're going to have to pay 35 million quid because those people did what they did?
It could be 50 million.
You know what the funny thing is, Mike? My company's been doing stuff against pro-Palestine outfits, protecting some of our clients, and I'll tell you what, we've had more success than the government has, as far as I'm
sure you
seen.
have. I mean,
I can't go into detail, but let's say we've made some of their
in the middle of this week,
unpleasant.
they had a protest planned, and to be fair to Mark Rowley, who I'm not the biggest fan of, Metropolitan Police Chief, he actually said, look, we want to be able to close this thing down, but we can't because Yvette Cooper says, oh, we'll prescribe them next week. And
should have
just done it yesterday. And it all got pretty violent. And they're all wearing masks and they're all, threatening the police. And the police actually got stuck in, which I was pleased to see. And they arrested, I think, 13 people.
Good.
But they're all waving Iranian flags around.
I was there yesterday.
Flags.
I went down to Trafalgar Square to see what these hobbits and halfwits were up to.
I know.
They were holding up, I kid you not, photos of Carmody saying, be on the right side of history. And the right side of history that they meant there was on side with the supreme leader who will blind women if they show their hair in public. I mean, these people are absolute nutcases.
And sponsor Hamas attack on
totally deranged.
7th.
I mean, anyone supporting Iran who knows the truth about what they do, which is to back Hamas, to back Hezbollah, to back the Houthis, to imprison people, to murder people. They hanged 3 people yesterday who didn't agree with them. I mean, that's the country they're defending. It's absolutely incredible.
Every single Iranian friend of mine, every Persian friend of mine can't wait for the regime change.
I don't believe that those sort of protesters, like I always say this about Just Stop Oil, I just think it's activists jumping on the bandwagon. I don't think they give a damn.
Well, some of them are activists, but the trouble is that they're very secretive. It's not a charitable organisation. They're very secretive about their accounts. And the Times had a piece this week saying that they think the Home Office thinks they might be being funded actually by the Iranian regime.
Yes,
which makes it more sinister. Look
after the bombings actually in Iran, that a lot of the SNP supporters' websites up in Scotland all disappeared overnight off social media.
Well, old Hum's are useless. I mean, he's been talking about it as well. That's what
we see him on his scooter.
His scooter clipping.
Can we see the scooter, please, Mike?
For old time's sake.
Please, Mike, can we see the
You know what we should do is we should ask Donald Trump if the SNP know what they're doing.
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
It's just brilliant. Just brilliant. Here's some more people who don't know what the they're doing. Is the NHS.
Honestly, again, I know that a lot of people have the NHS on a pedestal and you can't criticise it. I've said for a long time.
Not many, not anymore.
No, I think it's an absolute what's-it show and we need to stop it and start again. At the NHS, you can't get an appointment unless you're an illegal migrant. You can't see a dental. You can't get jacked. There's about 7 million people. The NHS, in their wisdom, have decided that the best thing to do for British patients who are in need of operations and medical treatment that's quite urgent is to send them overseas. New data reveals a 42% increase in foreign procedures in just 2 years. We're spending £4 million to send patients to Europe. So all the people who go to Turkey on their electric bikes for whatever they have done, their hair or their teeth,
teeth,
you can probably now get that for free. I go back, sorry, we're back to that again.
Yeah.
Illegal migrants. If we weren't giving everything to these people, then
Yeah.
the British people wouldn't have to be sent abroad.
What's an absolute joke is that inside the migrant hotels, they often have like a
GP
room
next
there
day,
with NHS staff
And
that
dental.
are on call for them, so they can have an appointment at a
In case your leg
moment's
gets a bit
notice.
strained, you know, because you haven't got an electric bike and you have to go deliver all that food. You know,
Yeah.
or
burns.
Or you fall off your bike.
That said, though, I mean, if you had the opportunity, you can get operated on in Whipps Cross Hospital.
Yes.
Or there's a nice one just on the edge of the sea in Bodrum.
Yes.
I mean,
But you might bump into Katie Price.
You might. There's always that danger.
Which
also,
is dangerous.
There's
Well,
also
just don't
that-
go to the same
that
arse
Turkey will
doctor
turn
as
into
her.
an Islamic State while you're there. You won't be able to get
I
out.
guess on a serious note, it just to me, all our priorities are wrong in this country.
course they are.
And we're not looking after the people we should be looking after. And we're giving so much away. People always talk about a deterrent, this migration problem. The deterrent is stop being so soft, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Just stop laying out the
does it
bleeding
not-
red carpet.
Or just make a decision.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, but
like,
maybe
you know, that last with Yvette Cooper saying, well, we need to just make
Just
the
do it.
decision.
Yeah.
Just
That's why I
do
said-
it.
that's why I said
Jeremy, maybe this comes under the category of foreign aid.
Maybe.
Well, does it not
Don't get me
strike
on
you
that.
as slightly ironic, though, that here
Yeah.
we are importing loads of people, sometimes illegal and sometimes legal, to come to this country, all of whom are using the NHS in this country. But British people are being sent abroad to have their NHS cover done for £4 million in another country.
Oh,
It's
but we
almost
need,
like a
we need
reverse
all those
chess.
migrants
Yeah.
because they're all doctors and nurses, every single one.
Right.
And engineers.
Sorry,
Yeah, engineers.
I like to say this whenever I can, and even he'll raise his eyes, right? If it's really simple. If you stopped these people coming in who come in apparently to do those jobs that none of the people in Britain can do, there's 4 million people claiming benefit. I will never accept they're all mentally ill disabled. I'll give you so that's 2 million I'll give you, but the other 2 million, I get them off their asses and make them do these goddamn jobs to give something back to society because we're giving them money.
Yeah.
It benefits them and us. We get it all wrong the whole time.
You're absolutely right. And just before we move on to the next nominee, Chloe, you've been in a TV show about migrants, haven't you? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I was shipped off to Syria to
You were
see if
what?
I could make it back to the UK like an illegal migrant.
Were you?
Nearly died on a boat off the coast of Lebanon and then climbed through the Alps from
You didn't
Italy
see Greta
into France.
Thunberg going the other way, did you?
Not quite,
On the
not
selfie
quite.
yacht.
Yeah.
But that would have been quite funny. There
Yeah.
were quite a few memes of that, of the migrants waving at Greta Thunberg as she goes past on the
Right.
Freedom Flotilla. But yeah, it was pretty eye-opening, and there are a mixture of reasons why they come across to the UK from France, but there would be a heck of a lot fewer of them if it weren't for the fact that we straight away offer them a place to stay, food. So in Italy,
Mobile phone.
they arrive in Italy. And a lot of them move on from Italy
Yeah.
into France and other countries because in Italy you're either on the streets or you have to or you move on somewhere
Right.
else because they offer absolutely nothing
Right.
there, and so they don't stay in Italy. We could get an idea from
We
them.
could do that.
When's
Did you
it
see that
out?
great
When's
picture?
it- when's
It's already out.
Did you see that great picture this
From
week
Channel 4.
from the G7 in Canada of Georgia Maloney sitting just behind Starmer, and he's sort of to her right. She's just got this kind of scowl on her face, like looking at him like.
Do you think he'd let one go?
Well, you might as well have
The
done.
thing is, all of the feminists that say we need to have women in positions of power, they are dead quiet about her being the prime minister.
Oh, they
of
don't
Italy
like her.
because she's not left wing.
No, exactly. Ridiculous.
They're
anyway,
only in favour of feminism when it suits their political
Of course
ideology.
they are. Of course they are. They're left wing. They're hypocrites. It goes without saying. Champagne socialists. What about Nasser El Garanik?
Well, I'm glad that you tried to pronounce the name
think,
for me.
Yeah, I think it's the first time ever we've had a camel herder on Plank of the Week. So congratulations to Nasser.
This is
Yes, so we've got a
Camel herder.
a Qatari camel herder who went to Chelsea Hospital, came here
There he
from
is.
abroad from an operation.
So he's come here for an operation.
Yes, he's
Right,
come here for an
just
operation.
checking.
And
To
he
have his humps
decided.
removed.
Bravo,
Very
sir.
good.
He
Wants to be a
decided,
dromedary.
the absolutely disgusting man, to drag a woman
Yeah.
into the toilets at that hospital and attempt to rape her.
Yes.
Now, luckily, the courts did not buy his defence, but he denied the 2 counts of attempted rape because he says, I'm from a tribe in Qatar where I don't have much interaction with women. The only person I would have ever been interacted with was my mother. I think he was basically saying that he had a right to do it because he hadn't been able to sleep with any women back home.
And this is the second time within the
beyond
last month,
belief.
right, that this ridiculous excuse has been used. It was used by his lawyer, who, let's not forget, is a British human rights lawyer. And there was a guy from Afghanistan who used the same excuse and said, he didn't know that it was wrong. what are you talking about? I mean, I haven't been inside the Pashtun tents of Afghanistan. I don't know how the Taliban are with women, but I'm pretty sure they don't encourage people to actually rape them, do they?
No, they don't.
I mean, that's not...
Not from my experience.
That's not their
been
culture,
in Afghanistan.
No.
I was quite surprised that his defence was turned down by the judge.
Yeah.
I was expecting this would be yet another bloody story where he's allowed to stay. He's a rapist.
Yeah.
Honestly,
as soon as we get rid of the ECHR,
there's
the
absolutely no excuse for it whatsoever.
No.
I don't care how backward the culture is.
No.
You know, a lot of people who come here on boats, they come from cultures where they probably don't even know what the word consent means.
No.
But still, that does not excuse you from abusing girls in this country. And I've spoken about how the feminists are super quiet about Georgia Maloney. They are also very, very quiet about immigration, even though it is a huge threat to women in this country.
Yeah. And there are now statistics which have been produced by not just the Home Office, but by the Justice Department as well from last year, which shows the incredibly high number of sex offences committed disproportionate to the number of people here by men from foreign countries.
Yeah. And then the left say, oh, but more than 50% of the people that do it are white.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you not understand how proportionality works? They do the same with the grooming gangs, right? They find one stat where it's like slightly more than 50% is white people, even though it's, 40-something% Pakistani Muslims.
Right.
And they say, oh, but it's less than 50%. It's clearly not an issue.
Right. I know.
What is wrong with you
they're
idiots?
Just not very
they didn't
bright,
go to maths class.
No, they're not very bright. We've ended with another section, so we've got to come back after this with some more on the Home Office because they just can't seem to get anything right at the moment. And a bloke who apparently likes birds. I'm leaving it at that. This is Plank of the Week.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We're getting quite near the final furlong, by the way. Over to you, Mr. Will Geddes.
Right, I'm going to pose this question to you. How surprised would you be that there is corruption within the Home Office, Asylum and Immigration Department?
No,
What, like Harry Potter? Handing out passports and all that malarkey.
And approving asylum seekers if they get a nice wedge of cash.
Anyway,
so what he was doing.
So what was he actually doing?
So what he was actually doing was approving asylum seekers. So certain asylum seekers, and there was one particular individual who'd had his asylum request rejected. That's right. He then asked for that case to be passed to him, so that he obviously was paid for it.
Right.
And then ultimately approved it, put it straight through, but the system didn't verify to say, hang on a second, this guy's been rejected already. Right. How is he able to come through?
How did people get hold of him? Did he advertise his services? Home Office worker for $3,000, I'll get you in.
They're like the traffickers, basically a bit of a gang network. There was 2 of them that were actually arrested, but what they had was basically a network fed out into the asylum community and the illegal immigrant
But I
community.
remember, do you remember there was a famous picture that was taken inside the Home Office years ago of a load of people in the Home Office holding up a refugees welcome sign?
Yeah.
Do you remember? And every single one of them looked as though they might have come from, another country to go and work in the Home Office.
Absolutely.
And you'd have to wonder about their recruitment process. And you go, well, if you're employing people who are helping other people to get into this country illegally, what sort of vetting procedure?
The people working in the Home Office are not people trying to secure our borders. Let's be clear about that. And this person, I'm surprised that they didn't get Employee of the Month because the government is boasting that they brought down the asylum backlog. We know exactly how they're doing that. They're just rubber stamping every single person and not vetting them properly.
I mean, we also found
it's zero vetting throughout. That's the biggest
We
issue.
also found out this week that there's another 50,000 plus asylum seekers who have lost their claims for asylum. But because they're appealing, are still staying in the hotels that they're in because they're going to be here for 53 weeks. Is the appeal time that it takes. So they'll be here for another year. So another year's worth of £1,000 a week riding around on your Uber Eats bike. What is going on?
I think they've got to use my plan. Get some old container ships, big oil container ships, and LNG container ships, convert them. Like the Bibby Stockholm, stick them all on there. They can wait there.
Ascension Islands, the Orkney Islands, the Falklands. Honestly,
or even the Chagos Islands.
Honestly.
Well, then this guy's got an island. There's an island in Scotland. There's an island in Scotland called the Isle of Mull.
Mull of Kintyre.
Not Mull of Kintyre, that's a different mole. There's another mole, which is up a bit further north.
How many moles are there?
I'm not sure.
Well, there's the Mull of Kintyre and then there's Mull.
There's Mull, yeah.
And then there's this bloke.
You know that. You're such an intelligent man.
I tried to hide it.
There might be, there might be other moles. There might be.
Come on, Dobby, how many moles are there? You're like a font of information.
I've got no idea.
You haven't electrically biked round them, have you?
No, I haven't.
Absolutely extraordinary.
You're never going to let that go, are you?
No, we're never going to forget it now. So, Mr. Mark Wogan, over to you. You've got another.
This is a sad
character.
story. This is a sad story where we can't really quite work out who the plank is. But Anders Fernstedt.
Sorry?
Anders Fernstedt. 57 of Billionaires Row.
Yeah.
Only difference is he kind of lived in a kind of collection of boxes he'd made in a doorway.
Oh, right. So he's not living in Bishop's Avenue then?
Well, no, but just that one near Kensington Gardens.
Oh, I know.
With the pond.
Palace Gardens.
Yeah, Palace Gardens, that's
Yeah.
right. So,
Well, Geddes lives very close to that.
yes, he does. He does.
Yeah.
He does. Drives around it.
Yeah.
He's got like a free pass.
He has.
But this man is known locally as the Swan Whisperer.
Is he?
Because he can go up and he talks to the... Here he is now, look. As you can see, he is the wrong side of neurodiverse.
Is he barefoot?
He's naked, isn't he?
I think he's naked there.
He's
as well.
naked?
Yes, I think he's naked there.
Is he whispering or shagging the swan? That's what we're eating.
He's the swan fondler, this guy. But
there's another bloke from the middle of Park Lane who's eating one around the corner. Get a picture of him.
He's necking that swan.
Exactly. He's selling them to because you roast this for me.
Yeah.
Now,
Roast this.
Now, better roast it.
Hey, Will knows.
No. Oh, you two. Anyway, so he's there touching up the swans as he does.
Fondling.
Swan fondling. And this woman, this woman warns him that he may be spreading avian flu. And
What?
he should stop. I don't know who he's spreading it to. Is it the
I don't
next
think anybody
swan
else is going to
along?
want to fondle him.
Anyway, he gets rather upset, and it's another crime involving a bike.
Right.
He rams this woman, Victoria Gray, with the bike, calling her Hitler. Some other...
This story can't be true, can it?
No, it is.
Seriously,
and then another
getting better.
standby who remains as Mr. Ferguson steps in to sort of break them up. He gets punched in the face. This bloke ends
This is
up...
all in the shadow of Kensington Palace, isn't it?
This bloke
I'd
ends
run by
up
that
going
part.
to court. So Anders, the swan fondler,
Yeah.
ends up going to court.
Did he wear clothes for that?
I think so.
He was a bit antsy, wasn't he?
I think so. Well,
nice swan
according to
jacket.
reports, no, jacket made of feathers. No, according to reports, he had quite a lot of designer clothing that he was gifted because he lived in a doorway on
He
Billionaires
didn't go
Road.
to court naked then.
No, he didn't go to court naked. But the judge, and this man is a judge,
Right.
judged that he had no mental health, was slightly eccentric.
Okay.
He looks like
Well,
a
I mean,
right
as
nutter to
judges
me.
go, the judges that I've
So who's-
known, he's probably right.
Who is the plank? The swan,
Well, this
the
is what-
Karen,
this is what-
and just the swan fondler,
I
or the bloke
think
that
it's-
jumped in and
I
got
think
punched
he's
in the
quite-
face?
I think it's
He's quite cool, the swan
I think Hitler Vicky should have kept her nose out of
There's
it.
that,
for
there's
a
that
start.
great
I think it's
Victoria
the
Wood
Karen.
sketch from years
They
ago.
should
that
have
says,
just left him to
"You-
live his hippie life.
You
with
can
swans."
sum up Great Britain. She said, I got on a bus the other night. She said, we were all sitting at the bus and this couple started literally having sex on the back seat.
Yeah.
Nobody said a word. They literally, Victoria Wood, best sketch ever. They were literally at it, she said, for 11 minutes. Nobody says a word. And then when they finished, the bloke lit a cigarette and 4 people jumped up and said, I think you'll find this is a non-smoking compartment. That is exactly like that woman, isn't it?
But the thing about this is, if you've ever been up there are a lot of swans around this pond.
Swans are pretty dangerous creatures.
They are
I mean-
dangerous creatures, and various tourists think it's like a theme park, and they go and try and stroke these animals and get attacked on a regular basis.
Yeah, right.
Now, this bloke, all he has to do is
Find
whip his
out.
kit off, and they are drawn to
fondle.
it. I would imagine he's got quite an attractive musk for a swan.
A what?
Attractive musk.
Is that his smell?
Does he have some designer sort of aftershave? that
Yes,
puts
he probably
on?
does.
He's been gifted by.
Gifted.
So is that-
I
is
no
that-
longer need this
Is that
Clorox.
nutter of the week? Or
Yeah.
No, I don't think
Well,
that's
he's
right.
been, apparently he's been banned from Hyde Park as a result.
So as a result, the judge said it is not a mental health issue. He's just eccentric, and has put a restraining order. He can't go into Hyde Park for 2 years. The swans are missing him.
Yeah.
And
They-
he
how
can't
do
go
they feel
near.
about
He can't
restraining?
go. He
He's been
can't go
seen
near
outside-
Hitler Vicky
He's
or
been seen
Mr.
outside with a
Ferguson.
pipe, trying to get the swans to come out after him.
I bet he's after London Zoo.
I mean, there's plenty of swans in all different parts of London.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you can,
Off to Regent's Park.
Where's you can go to Regent's Park.
There was no inference that he did anything physical with the swans.
swans?
I don't know. I think he was the
Other
swan
than Fondle.
whisperer, not the swan shagger.
He's lying,
Can you go to
lying
prison
down
for
with them.
sexually assaulting a swan? Is that possible?
If you just tuned into Plank of the Week, that is our question of the day. Can you go to prison for
That has to be
sexually...
illegal.
Because why did you have to
Because the
take
Queen
it there?
excuse me, the Queen owns those swans. I mean, or the King.
Yeah.
The King now
The King.
owns
They are.
those swans.
Yeah, that's true.
They're hers.
Yeah, but they are vicious creatures. I mean,
maybe we should
I'm
just
quite
ask
impressed.
Charles.
my
I'm
kids
quite
were
impressed
little.
by him.
They'd all waddle over to the swans. You'd have to go and grab them.
I've been
before,
chased by
I used to
one
push
trying
around.
to...
Hang on, Mike,
One
you were
trying to
wrestling
attack
swans?
me.
Well, no, I never went near them because there's somewhere around the
You haven't
lake
got a
in-
history of swan fondling, have you?
in a place called Linlithgow, which is the birthplace of Mary Queen of Scots,
Yes.
and where she used to live in the palace there. They've got a lovely lake around it, and it's full of swans. And they're
That will happen
even
with
dangerous. You don't want to go anywhere
They
near
are,
them.
but...
Well, there was always that myth, wasn't there? Don't go. A swan can break your arm with its
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah.
I don't think so, do you?
I don't know.
No, I think
Is that what your mother told you?
Yeah, stay away from the swans.
they are properly vicious. There's this one kayak race I do, and it is renowned that there's an evil swan.
Kayaking?
There's an evil swan that
Between
you have to
Styria
paddle
and Calais.
past in this race.
Sorry. Is that in an electric kayak?
No.
There you go. I know what's going on,
You just
Tommy.
sit- you just sit in it
there
like this.
that. And
No,
it
you
just
just-
takes you to
No,
Gaza.
you just hold
On
the oars.
flotilla.
You hold it like that,
Yeah.
and you just go.
There's, if you put hydrofoil on the back, you actually can do that. Some people have. But anyway, this evil
I had no
swan.
idea you led this kind of
evil
secret,
swan
active
tries to. Oh yeah, I'm like secretly an exercise freak.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway,
Not from the
this
electric
evil
bike.
swan tries to attack all of the kayakers every time. It's the hardest part of the race. I've never sprinted so fast in my life. It was trying to get on the back deck of.
Sprinting?
It was trying to get on the back deck of my boat and get to me. And so then what I did was I paddled nice and closely to some like little junior girls and just let the swan attack them instead. And I just went, see ya.
What a lovely
Goodbye.
That's good. Lead the swan to the.
So you've got an electric bike,
I don't
an
have an electric
kayak,
boat.
an
I
electric
don't-
toothbrush.
And
I
you
don't
feed,
have
and
an
you feed
electric
small
toothbrush.
children to wild animals.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
That's it.
Great.
Chloe Dobbs.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm
Chloe
the blank of the
Dobbs.
week.
And good night.
Bank of the week.
This is, of course, a Plank of the Week. Coming up, the final nomination from me, and of course, a winner. We might have to give it to Chloe Dobbs. This is Plank of the Week.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We're in the final bit now where I'm going to decide who has won it, with a little help from the panel, of course. And before we nominate the final nominee, which is the Foreign Office, we're going to have an honourable mention for Andrew Davis. Now, Andrew Davis is the Tory leader in Wales. And he was talking about midgets, apparently.
Midgets?
You may
Midgets
well
or
say.
midges?
Well, that's the question. He
that
was
is
having
the
a chat about something called blue tongue. You know, we've been talking about swans.
Not when you have a slush puppy.
And animals. There is that. But also, it's apparently something that animals get.
Not a slush.
I don't know what kind of animals get it. I'm not.
I'll ask Anders.
Chow dogs. Chow dogs have blue
Chow
tongues.
dogs, yes, they do. I've lost the
Anders the
crowd
next
here.
time.
They've all gone.
You haven't got a blue
listen,
tongue from
have
licking
a
them
look at
swans, have
Andrew,
you?
have a look at Andrew Davis. He can't tell the difference between a midgie, right,
And a midget.
and a midget. Check it out.
Brilliant.
Blue tongue is not transmittable from cow to cow or sheep to sheep. It's transferred by midgets flying in the air. And you're not going to stop those midgets at the Offers Dyke border.
You've got to watch out for those midgets.
I mean,
Midgets flying in the air.
Flying midgets.
There's something slightly worrying about Welshmen talking
Was there
about
like a
cattle
cannon?
and sheep, isn't there? I don't know what it is, but he meant to say midgies. But anyway, so they're going to try and stop midgies.
Flying midgets.
Flying midgets from crossing the border.
I'm
It's a bit windy down there.
concerned. Flying midgets. Has he been at a P. Diddy party?
I think there were some there. It's true.
Midget off.
Yeah, absolutely
You
right.
like to
Blimey.
midget?
Anyway, listen, we talked about Keir Starmer earlier on, not knowing that the Americans were
Yeah.
about to launch a massive attack on Iran. After the massive attack on Iran was launched, you couldn't find anybody in the government who would agree with it being a good idea, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is Luke Pollard, who was on Nick Ferrari's show on a rival station, but it's such a good interview, we've got to do it.
My question was, Minister, is the United Kingdom opposed to the action we saw on the weekend? It's a yes or no.
Well, that's not one for me to comment on. We've been involved with
But
our
you're the
US
Armed Forces
colleagues.
Minister. Why would you not have a view on armed intervention, as it were, in Iran?
The US have taken the action that they felt was necessary to alleviate the threat that Iran poses because
Minister,
of
you're
their
a
nuclear
bright bloke.
program.
You're not answering the question, are you, sir? I'm asking whether we support or oppose what Donald Trump is doing, and you won't tell me.
Well, the focus, Nick, as you appreciate, is on what happens
so
next.
we're not going to get an answer to that. Can I take you to
next? And that is their diplomatic solution. Has
so we
to
don't
be
know
there.
that one. OK.
It is ridiculous. Why do they bother putting these people
So
out?
irritating.
You know who they needed there? That business secretary bloke.
Yeah.
He would have
Reynolds.
answered that.
Yeah, call for Reynolds.
But that just shows that they spend their entire time, this government, because he's so broad to get himself elected, Starmer, that he can't say one thing because he's terrified of the people who are anti-this or anti-that. Never makes a decision, man.
So, I mean, when you get the Foreign Secretary and anybody else from the government unable to say how much they either don't like what America did or do like what America did, I mean, what is the point of them? You know, they're literally just sitting on this little rock in the middle of the sea with absolutely no relevance whatsoever to anything.
I think the general public are wise to it now. I think
I agree.
everybody is so fed up of these flim-flam answers that don't answer the point. And I think also, with all respect to all the journalists, they're coming with the much more direct questions because they know the public just can't tolerate it anymore. They just want a simple, straight, robust answer.
I don't think the British people quite understand how strong their voice is right now, and I absolutely don't think that all of our politicians of all parties really understand the depth of anger there is in this country. And 10 years ago, since the beginning,
have just had enough, haven't they?
They're not racist, they're not far right. They just go to work, pay the taxes, look after their kids, like I said at the top of the show, and they feel like 18th in the queue, and they've bloody well had enough. It's a fact.
Yeah, they really have. Because Sarah Pochin, who was on with me this week, she got up in Parliament and asked the question of David Lammy as well, about whether or not it was an issue that the Americans didn't use Diego Garcia in the Chagos Islands because of the recent transfer of ownership to Mauritius, because obviously if they had decided to use that, the Chinese would probably have found out. They would have told Iran. So, I mean, it's all kind of... And then instead of answering the question... He did. He might as well have done. Instead of answering the question, he accused her of being a conspiracy theorist, told her to get off social media, and everybody laughed like it was all a big laugh. And it's not a big laugh.
No, it's not.
You know, this lot are taking us right down the gurgler.
They're blaggers.
You know, they're
all
complete
blaggers.
blaggers.
The gurgler.
The gurgler.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hang on, who's the gurgler?
Down the gurgler. You know, it's
that's the bloke in Hyde Park.
It's not to do with swans. We're not back on swans again, are we?
I've forgotten about it already.
Is that Duarte or the other bloke?
Duarte. It's a very sort of eclectic group this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anderson Duarte.
Wogan's in the building.
From Martine Croxall to Spencer Duarte to Nazir Al-Garanik. Who else have we got?
The mole bloke.
Andrew Davis. By the way,
One of the
Davis,
moles.
the leader there of the,
leader?
of the Welsh Tories. Why is he in a field dressed like a farmer?
Yeah.
I mean...
Or he's just in a beer garden.
Maybe he is a farmer.
I think there was the leisure centre in Wales, wasn't it, where he was?
Very possibly. Anders Fernstedt.
Love a leisure centres, Jeremy.
Anders Fernstedt, also, very good. Imran Mole.
There's only one winner.
I mean, there is only one winner.
The
it has
Swan
to be.
Shagger has got to win.
He can't. No, it's going to have to be the Deliveroo lot. It's them. It's got to be them.
Oh, another Home
I
Office?
can't win
Surely.
2 weeks on the bounce.
Well, it's not about who wins. It's about the best subject. I mean, that's been the subject of the week. I'd have to
All right.
say. The Swan Shagger.
It was amazing.
The Swan Shagger is, by all counts, the weirdest one we've had on this show, I think.
But there are 3 candidates.
I try.
So you can get a special prize for that.
Thank you.
But I think as plank of the week, it's surely got to be these people.
I mean, it was a great bit of work by the Sun.
These people are running an entire racket, right? Employing, thousands of illegal migrants, ripping off the
They're
nation.
paying probably absolutely close to nothing anyway.
My suspicion is it'll turn out to be some gang master behind it all.
Yeah.
Who's sitting very high on the hog in a £3 million house somewhere in the middle of France.
I wouldn't be that
I
surprised.
still say, if there was no electric bikes, this problem wouldn't exist.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I have to say this, Dobby, at the end of the programme, you are part of that problem.
They would just deliver the food slower on.
Well, that's what they do. Have you ever? I mean, I don't use these people much, but I did use them a few times a few years ago. And a guy came. It took him so long because he was not on an electric bike. He was on a pedal bike, and he was. And I could see him, and he was pedalling along the other side of the river, and he was going at about 2 miles an hour. And when he arrived, he apologised. He got lost. He said, "It's my first day here. I'm from India."
Brilliant.
Well, he'd come from India with your food.
Well,
it was that cold.
It was cold. No, the food was cold. He was from India.
Someone was pictured in Camden the other day delivering, I think it was Uber Eats, on a paddleboard.
Oh,
that
really?
would have taken a long time to arrive.
You got a paddleboard?
Don't tell me you got one of those as
I
well.
have a paddleboard business.
What?
Yeah.
Have you got a paddleboard business?
I rent out paddleboards.
Do you?
Are they electric?
They're not electric.
Maybe we'll have to do a show. Plank of the week on paddleboards.
Dobby has got so many different arms.
I think what you don't know about Dobbs.
Yeah.
Is a whole programme.
That could be a whole show in itself.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Let's do Dobbs.
The mystery of Dobbs.
You know what I mean?
Okay, then.
I don't mean that as
All right, well,
Let's find out the truth about.
All right, listen, we're going to
Dobby.
we're going to give the plank of the week to
Dobby.
Deliveroo, Just Eat, and also what's the other one? Uber Eats.
Yeah.
And anybody else who uses these plankish illegal migrants to deliver food. And if you are getting food delivered to yourself tonight, just cancel it. Cancel it because you're basically encouraging them.
No,
just don't do it.
It's actually. I think it's a threat. It's a threat to women. I will not order Deliveroo because
True.
I don't want, in like the dark entrance to my house, some undocumented man, possibly from a very backwards culture, doesn't treat women well, to possibly be able to say push into my front door.
Yeah.
And when
It's a very
nobody
good
else
point.
is around.
It's a very good point. Let that be a lesson to you all. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Mark. We'll be back next week with more Plankery. This is Plank of the Week.